Well, welcome on, friends. Salt City Hoops live postcast. Happy to be here on this Sunday night. It's a little bit late for y'all, but that's okay. We're here in Mountain Time. I used to live on the East Coast for quite a while, and these 1:30 ending times would be pretty rough. Happy to have y'all here today. We're drinking something quite interesting today. I like drink my Belgian triples and my Belgian doubles quite a bit, but every once in a while you run into a quadruple. I was at Beer Festival almost a month ago now, and I had a quintuple, which took me for a spin. But we got a Belgian quadruple here from a Dutch. It's a Dutch brewery making a Belgian quadruple, and someone on Twitter mentioned that this looks like the outfit I'm wearing today. Which, if you on Twitter Spaces are observing, I got a retro purple shirt and a black and purple the late 90s copper Utah Jazz hat, but with a purple brim. So it's kind of got all the Jazz colors of the 90s represented today. And we're in a good mood today. Are we not? Holy shit, everybody. This team is, 8-3? 8-3, right? I'm going to get ahead of myself. I watch this team every day. I don't know if they're 8-3 or 9-3. 8-3. They're going to be 9-3 after they beat the Lakers tomorrow, right? Lakers don't have a chance. The only chance the Lakers have tomorrow is if Russell Westbrook goes off, right? Because Anthony Davis looks like not the player. And if LeBron goes for a 40-point triple-double, it's still going to require a magical performance from like a Lonnie Walker or something. But we're here to talk about tonight, and you're here to talk about Sunday night, Salt City Hoops live postcast, drinking, having a good time, and winning. The 8-3 Jazz just keep on winning. And that small sample size doesn't mean anything. A lot of teams can go 8-3 at any 11-game stretch in the season. But let's be stupid for a second, because it's Sunday, it's the end of the weekend, you're all trying to avoid work tomorrow. What does 8-3 this is what I think about on my dog walk sometimes. What does 8-3 look like if you extrapolate that out? You know, that's 16-6. That's 32-12, right? And yes, over a larger sample size, that obviously means more to be 32-12 over that more than 8-3. But sometimes I think a lot of our, especially Americans in our NFL-focused culture, we think of like 8-3 as like just a step away from disaster. And sometimes it's fun to think about like, well, if you get an 82-game season, well, what does that look like? and you end up with like a really quality basketball team. Except for some individual players. And not even all the time. This team plays just sound, fast, fundamental basketball. And by fundamental, it's not just like always rebounding well or playing solid defense. It's just there's so much innate basketball movement that you learn as like a star player when you're in college or in late high school. The cutting on this team is just not like what we're used to over the past couple years. Like, when was the last time you saw like Bojan Bogdanovic cut in for a layup, right? Off script, right? Not he would get an intentional screen from somewhere else. The amount of like just in cuts we see from this team that pressure a defense and force even on-ball defenders to kind of like look the other way is that's more natural basketball shit that happens off script to just say like let me see if I can try to get a layup. Or if I get and then when they get the ball in the lane, like let's say a player makes a great cut and the defense reacts to it, the player doesn't receive the ball and immediately think like, I made the right basketball play, I've made the cut, I now have the basketball, and I'm going to shoot regardless of the defense. Every single player gets the ball in these types of situations, whether it's the cut I'm describing or some other off-script situation, they immediately they have this really uncanny awareness of like, is this a shot I should take or not? Like, is this something where we got 12, 8, 6 seconds left on the shot clock where I can toss it to Jordan Clarkson to do something different? I can toss it to Lauri Markkanen to do something different. Side note, I'm really trying to make sure I say Lauri Markkanen. I know it's a subtle difference, but people deserve to be called what they're called. It's Lauri Markkanen, not Lauri Markkanen. I know we hear that on a few podcasts from time to time. That smart, innate basketball is cool and really messes up a lot of teams in the regular season. We saw a little bit of game planning from the Clippers today, matching up certain players against certain players, and Day and I get way too far ahead of myself. This team is just, Utah is not a playoff team right now. As far as you get them in the playoffs and you put them in a 7-game series against somebody, like, they are going to be exploited because they just do not have the talent. And if you shut down certain avenues of offense on Utah, their defense certainly can't hold up, right? Like, Utah's defense for the past few years, because of Rudy Gobert, could really save a lot of bad offense. Utah's defense is fairly dreadful so far this season. They're winning a lot of close games because of good executing offense that will frankly just get mucked up in the playoffs. So let's not get super ahead of ourselves as like, oh, this is an 8-3 team that will become, as I was alluding to, you know, a 32-12 team. Nothing like that. And like what is a 32-win team after 44 games actually look like in the playoffs? Usually you think of those teams as like really, really good all around. Utah's certainly going to come to earth eventually as far as the win-loss record, and that's because of their defense and offense that just isn't quite that level of elite. But it's fun as hell to watch now, and it's an annoying team to have to come in your building all the time where they're just trying hard, they're executing on scripted and unscripted plays really well, and it is a little scary to think if the Jazz just stop coughing the ball all over the gym randomly, if that offensive rank that I think is like it's kind of okay, if that could become even better, right? Because a lot of their turnovers aren't a turnover prone guy just whipping the ball over the gym. They're executing a lot of offensive fouls. They're having carry violations from time to time. It isn't usually a guy just whipping the ball around the gym. And there's a couple passes where the guys are just not used to each other, right? Like, so Clarkson tried to do a no-look pass to Olynyk. I think it was in the first quarter, second quarter probably. And it was a beautiful no-look interior pass after a Clarkson drive. And Olynyk was ready to go for the rebound, right? And the ball just caromed off Olynyk's hands. In the meantime, close game throughout, and the Jazz are able to steal a win. This was a really fun one. Like I mentioned to y'all, I'm very much enjoying this Belgian quadruple here. It said it has with Scottish heather honey. I'm not really getting a lot of honey notes here, but I'm going to polish this one off. 10%er for you today. Brewery name that I cannot pronounce. It's Dutch. Really enjoying tonight. So hopefully your all's work tomorrow isn't too bad, and we can talk about what we had tonight. So, pulling up the match stats today. Get some of my stats up. So, like I mentioned, Jazz coughed the ball pretty much all over the gym today. 20 turnovers again. I think they are ranking quite last or close to last on turnovers that they're committing over the course of the season, and especially compared to prior years. Yeah, their turnover percentage right now is 16%, which is 23rd in the league. I thought it would actually be quite worse than that, because 20 turnovers per game is not going to get it done. When it comes to, like tonight, it was their turnover percentage per possession was around 21.2%, which would rank them in the 8th percentile, which would be around 27th, 28th in the league. So 8 turnover, we had 8 turnovers against the Lakers 2 nights ago, and we had 8 turnovers in the first quarter today. A lot of dumb turnovers, right? And that's true for any team. I mentioned it earlier. It's not necessarily coughing the ball up and throwing the ball over the gym, and just bad passing. When a team commits 8 turnovers in a quarter, it's the handle's not tight. They're dribbling the ball off their foot. They're securing a rebound, getting credited with the rebound, and then dropping it off their foot out of bounds, or securing a rebound, and then they're leaning out of bounds and they step out of bounds and that counts as a turnover. The turnovers can really rack up if you're playing a little fast and loose, and this is a fast and loose team. So I think it's a credit to the team. 12 turnovers in the last 3 quarters, which is a 16 turnover pace, which isn't great. You're aiming for 12 or under, right? And if you're at 10 turnovers, you're in a really good space. If you're at 12 turnovers, that's acceptable. And if you're at 15 turnovers, it's like you're kind of hoping for other things. And 20 turnovers is a lot of other things have to go well for you. And the thing that I think primarily went well for the Jazz today is Paul George being off from 3. So Paul George, 11 of 22 today, 34 points. He had 5 turnovers of his own. He had some really ghastly turnovers, but he had some great looks from 3. And so he's 11 to 22 from the field. He's 5 of 14 from 3. And we all know Paul George is a 40% three-point shooter, really great shooter. So you take that away, he's 7 of 8 from two-point range, right? And yeah, Paul George could take any of the defenders he was matched up with off the dribble. He had Jordan Clarkson on him for a little while. He had pretty much every defender ended up on him. Markkanen had a great stint against him in the second quarter. And forcing Paul George to shoot from 3. He ended up 5 of 14 from 3. That's just not the Paul George that you would really expect. And when he was making interior plays, he was getting fouled. He was making baskets. He was 7 of 8 from the free throw line today. And that was a big struggle from 3, right? So if you put Paul George at 7 of 14, because I think, and I know that all of a sudden sounds 50%, but I do think he had a lot of great wide open looks that were getting missed. The Jazz were letting him have it, and the rest of the team could not shoot from 3. I'm not going to stress about John Wall being 0 of 4 from 3. That's kind of what he does, but Marcus Morris was 1 of 7 from 3. You expect him to hit 3 or 4 of those on a good night. Terrence Mann can't shoot him. Nick Batum was 1 of 3. That's about normal for him. But if you're getting maybe 2 or 3 more threes out of Paul George and Marcus Morris shooting a combined 6 of 21 from 3, right? If they shoot 8 of 21, 9 of 21, and a little bit more of what you would expect those two guys to combine to shoot, then this becomes a lot closer game that might change in the final minutes, right? Jazz won 110-102. It's an 8-point swing or an 8-point game. But you can expect that maybe those final points look a little differently if the Clippers are closer. Jordan Clarkson personally gets my game ball of the game. I thought he was a terrific player. I think he had 5 turnovers, but a couple of them were pretty. I don't know if a couple of them should have even been credited to him, but he was classic. The Jordan Clarkson that we've expected or we've seen over the past couple of years, shooting ridiculous threes. He was 6 of 9 from 3, a lot of very difficult shots, setting up guys with 5 assists, really nice defense. He had a block on Ivica Zubac today that's emblematic of the new Jordan Clarkson, of this weak side help defense that is using his long arms and saying, I'm going to be in the play. He's gambling on stuff all the time in a way that's really useful. And I think he super got gassed. He played 30 minutes today, and he didn't play the last 5 or 6 minutes in lieu of Colin Sexton. And I don't think it was a anti-Jordan Clarkson thing. I think Clarkson was super gassed. And he really struggled at the end of his last fourth quarter stint. And Colin Sexton comes in, and as you see in my headline for the YouTube page, is he was big in these key moments. Colin Sexton took us home. He really, really, really took us home. Fabulous in the fourth quarter, drawing fouls, getting and ones, rebounding the heck out of some real high points of the ball at a couple key points in the fourth quarter. Decent three-point shooting today. I think he missed a couple ones that he wish he had back, but 2 of 5 from 3, I'm going to take it. But 8 of 9 from the free throw line is great. Sexton plus 3 on the night, but also made a huge difference in the fourth quarter. Defensively, offensively, it was great. Jazz held the Clippers to 26-17 fourth quarter. That really sealed the deal. And Clarkson's start to that fourth quarter and Sexton's end to that fourth quarter when they swapped, I think was equally valuable. But Clarkson was super, super important earlier in the first half of the game, really establishing some tough offense for Utah when things were going tough. Lauri Markkanen, the guy that everyone's kind of starting to think about, like, oh, is he most improved player? Is he an all-star? 18 points, 9 rebounds today. Again, his rebounding is awfully surprising. I've always mentioned it alongside Olynyk and Vanderbilt, but Olynyk's really not rebounding a ton this year, especially compared to prior years, and Jared Vanderbilt did not play today due to an abdomen strain. But Markkanen gets 9 rebounds. He had one great 3 at the end of a shot clock, really leaning away, high-pointing, rainbow shot, 3 that went in, and he missed his other 2. 1 of 3 from 3 today. But he was also a force on the interior, getting 7 free throws, going 7-7 from the line, and that's where the source of a lot of his 18 points came from. One key block in the fourth quarter. Smart defense on Paul George in the second quarter. Will Hardy threw a lot of different looks at Paul George to try to throw him off. And Markkanen was probably the most effective, but still not super effective, right? I think Paul George's defense against himself was more useful than any individual player we threw at him. Just a really, really fun, normal Markkanen game. Ho-hum, 18 points, 9 rebounds. That's a fun one. So I would say the top 3 guys, definitely. My game ball goes to Clarkson because I think when we get to the end of the game, we see those clutch moments. We see Clarkson on the bench. He's not closing the game. I think we really forget about how valuable his 30 minutes were and how those 6 and 9 3-pointers that we saw, a lot of them were completely nuts. And those 23 points were important. And his defense was good, right? You know, forcing Paul George into some tough shots. Playing decent post defense against Paul George, wearing him out, and his offense was great. I don't know. I'm a huge Jordan Clarkson guy. I'm having a great time. I just cracked open a beer because I just finished this Belgian quadruple, but I need something to lubricate these velvet tones here that you hear. But friend of the program, Andrew Streeter, has requested to join our program. And before I dive into every other player, whenever Mr. Streeter's on the line, I like to make sure that he always gives us 4 or 5 thoughts to think about in a row. So how many thoughts you got for us tonight, Mr. Streeter?
Hey, Mark, can you hear me?
I got you, man. What's up?
Man, so I've always loved your analysis. I just thought it was funny coming in and everyone's feeling really good about this win, and you just immediately are like, this team sucks, and we all know it, and they're not going to make the playoffs.
Well, to defend myself just a tiny bit, it was more about that the team doesn't maybe have long sustaining success, right? Like it's more like good from a game to game basis.
Yeah, no, I understand. It just made me laugh, really. So I just thought it was funny. Okay, biggest thing though, I was just looking at offensive and defensive efficiency as it was updated after tonight. You'd say the Jazz offense isn't that good. They're 9th in offensive efficiency and 12th in defensive efficiency through 11 games. I know it's a small, how big a sample size has to be the sample size before we're like, oh wait, this is like a pretty good team. They've got like 10 or 11 guys that are legitimate NBA rotation players at the very least. I mean, if we're talking about Markkanen, who's clearly making a step up, and has been since he played Eurobasket, and continues to be awesome. And Clarkson playing starter minutes. Guys who were on the team before, what few they were, are putting up career numbers through season. Assists wise, Clarkson's averaging more than twice as many assists as he normally does just on the season. They're winning in different ways, man. It's not just like they're winning in clutch games, and they're outmaneuvering and outcoaching teams down the stretch. I mean, the Jazz were down 4 or 5 with 5 minutes to go tonight, I'm pretty sure, and then they closed on a 16-6 run, something like that. and just kept attacking the basket. When it was interesting because early in the game they weren't getting to the rim at all. They couldn't do it. They weren't getting to the rim, and that's how they ended up winning. I'm just really impressed with Will Hardy, and I think that you want to feel good about the team too. But I have a lot.
Oop. Sorry, I accidentally muted you there, Andrew.
No worries. I guess my optimism just continues to grow every time I watch it. Because how often do they make this trip to LA and sweep it and sweep the LA stay? That doesn't happen often.
And to be clear, I'm muting you because I'm getting an echo, so I was a little bit proactive with my mute button, so I'm sorry about that. So a couple things. One, let me be absolutely clear for everyone who's watching this now or later. I am so fucking optimistic about this team. I love this team. I love where they're going. I think my stint of pessimism was, I think we were, for the first time this entire season, we saw a coach who is trying to throw some different defenders at different players on offense, like Markkanen. Like, we saw Terrence Mann starting out on Mike Conley immediately, taking him full court. The funny thing is, Terrence Mann, first possession of the game, takes Mike Conley full court. He switches on to Jordan Clarkson and does this Terrence Mann hounding him bullshit that shit works in college. It doesn't work in the NBA except for maybe one time a game, and which isn't worth it versus what you're giving up and the energy you're expending. In the first possession of the game, Jordan Clarkson shakes him and hits a three, right? And so, but that wasn't the only instance. Ty Lue likes to throw spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks. That's the kind of coach he is, and he's willing to kind of see where he can throw his cavalcade of rangy wing guys. And who's going to get Lauri Markkanen today? Who is actually going to make sure that Markkanen isn't the guy that beats us? And who's going to keep Mike Conley from doing his distribution game that he's been doing well at? And there were times of today that it turned into a Jordan Clarkson, Malik Beasley, or Colin Sexton ISO situation, and Utah got some good looks out of that. And I think that's a credit to those guys as players, but I don't think that's sustainable over a 7-game series. And my entire intro was about, guys, I'm so thrilled about this team. And I think I was trying to coach myself down a little bit to say, all right, you put this team in a 7-game series, I don't think it's going to look pretty great. But you're absolutely right. As I look at it today, they're 8th in offense, 14th in defense, which is about 10 spots higher than I thought they would be. They were 23rd a week ago, but and the Lakers, they gave up a huge offensive rating to the Lakers. Defensive rating to the Lakers the other day. And they're winning these close games. So I'm kind of looking at this being I like the guys, and I like what's happening with the team, and I'm optimistic about players, and I think they're coached well. They're attacking the right points. When Reggie Jackson had a bum ankle, we attacked him for a couple possessions. They're very quick thinking on the fly. I love that when they were in the bonus, they started attacking the rim with abandon. Will Hardy is coaching his ass off on every possession. By the way, Quinn Snyder did that too his first season. You have this exuberant energy where you want to make sure every dribble is accurate. But he's actually he's doing it with purpose. He's putting guys in the right spot. And as far as defense is concerned, there are ways that they're able to fly around. It reminds me a lot of the Minnesota Timberwolves of the past couple years, where they have no rim protection. They have Karl Anthony Towns. He can block a shot from game to game, but he's not a rim protector. He doesn't have that verticality or that second leap ability. We all saw him foul out of several games or get into foul trouble several games because, unlike a Rudy Gobert or even a Jared Vanderbilt, which we've seen this year, if you get Karl Anthony Towns in the air, he's going to foul you. He's not good at getting back down on the ground and then jumping again and contesting a shot. So, and what the Timberwolves have done the past couple of years is just blitz the fuck out of you. And just try to figure out how to get you to make a bad pass, get the turnovers, and make a play in the fast break. I see a lot of that now, where there was an unintentional switch where we had Colin Sexton guarding Paul George today, and the Clippers immediately said, that ball's going to Paul George. It's going to be a post up. He's been marked up on Clarkson this whole first half. But let's see if he's gonna take Sexton no problem. And Sexton said, there's no way I'm going to guard this guy. So I'm going to fool him into figuring out how I can get a deflection or a steal. Sure enough, steal, fast break, bucket, all because Colin Sexton had this exuberant defensive awareness. And I just don't see that being something you can really withstand for 32 games. But I now go from thinking, to your point, Streeter, don't mind me calling you by your last name here a little bit, I go from thinking this is like a 25th to 27th ranked offense to very solidly a 20th ranked defense that will really surprise the bad offenses of the league, especially come March, April, to surprising a great offense like the Clippers today. No Kawhi, but they had everybody else. No Luke Kennard. But he's not exactly a difference maker. They had a complement of good NBA players. The Clippers did today. Very, very few bad NBA players played minutes for them today, and in fact, no bad NBA players. I would say they played 9 guys today with Batum, Covington, Powell, and Wall off the bench. That's a good offense, right? Like that's going to be a top 10 offense this year, if not, or around there, maybe top 12, hopefully higher. For the Clippers' sake. I go from thinking it's a 25th to 27th ranked offense to at the season's end, we could see them 19th, 20th, 21st. And if they eke out a top 10 offense out of this group, that's a fun season that we just watched. And I'm being way too ahead of myself. And that's why the introduction was more about coaching myself down, Streeter, was this team can't win a 7-game playoff series, right? So what do you think?
I think that's why you play the games, first of all. But second, I would be thrilled to death if they got swept in any series. That meant that they made the playoffs, man. And that's what I would be thrilled about. Just taking it from that angle. I don't know that they could win one or not, but, man, I didn't think they'd be 8-3. Also, you can call me Streeter. Literally everyone does. The other thing I would say, speaking to defense, George went off in the first half, and he was just torching the Jazz. But you notice how Markkanen really bothered him in the second half, in a really impressive and meaningful way. And I was actually really impressed with Laurie defensively as much as I've been offensively in a lot of the last several games.
Yeah, and for me, if I'm a Clippers fan, getting to the end of that, is Paul George, when he took Markkanen off the dribble a couple times, he would get fouled by a weak side defender. He got his free throws. I think today was a failure on Paul George's part to really figure out how he needed to beat different defenders. And I'm going to give a little bit more credit to Will Hardy here to say, I'm going to start Clarkson up on you. And then we're going to substitute in, we're going to switch it around, and all of a sudden we're going to have a switching defense where we're going to have Paul George have a bunch of different bodies face up on him. And then towards the end of the second half, to close the second half, it's just going to be Markkanen marking you, and you're going to have to... You're getting tired, you don't want to go to the rim, and now you have a 7-footer. Sorry, he's 6'11", guys, guarding you for those shots, and that was great. I love Markkanen's tenacity, his length, his give-a-shit level is amazing, and that's really what you want, and I just thought Paul George probably could have done a little bit better if he just gave a little bit more shit about beating the Jazz on game 10 of the regular season. And I can't really fault Paul George in year 10 or whatever it is for him to say, you know what, I'm going to have to play 38 minutes tonight. I'm a great three-point shooter. I don't necessarily have to beat Lauri Markkanen off the dribble all the time, and I think he could have done a little bit. But Markkanen forced a couple turnovers off of him. Markkanen is not a waif. Let me put it. I think we can meet in the middle here, right? It's to say I had no concept of Markkanen's defense really until I watched Eurobasket this summer, and I saw a guy who was the captain of the offense and the captain of the defense on both ends of the floor for Finland, and he's brought that over the NBA where his give-a-shit level and his length and his awareness. He doesn't have that lateral mobility, but he's 6'11". Who gives a shit? His awareness of what an offense is trying to do and putting his hands in certain spots is really fun to watch. And he can be that wing defender, and I think being forced to play the 3 with JB Bickerstaff last year, because they just had to put the best talent on the floor regardless, with Kevin Love, Evan Mobley, and Jared Allen required to play the 4-5. Like, Markkanen's the only guy that you can plausibly put at the 3 there. It gave him maybe a few minutes of learning how faster players play. So I'm with you, man. I'm not sure I actually disagree with you on everything. What do you think?
Sorry, I forgot how to unmute myself.
I do it. I do it for you. I
Especially looking at some numbers here. The Jazz almost didn't have any business winning this game because they got outscored in the paint considerably, almost twice as many paint points for LA than the Jazz. They more than doubled up. I mean, it was 20-8 in fast break points. Clippers.
And I mean that's kind of my point, right? So that's not a great playoff defense.
LA had 7 fewer turnovers as well. The turnovers were nuts. And it's crazy to survive a game where you had like 20 plus turnovers. And there was a stretch there where I was really annoyed. But still, like, it just speaks to how many different ways the Jazz are winning games. They're doing it a number of different ways. And I don't think teams, they're not just catching teams off guard every night. That we can't say that through 11 games. Like, the narrative early on when they were like 4-0 or whatever, it was like, oh, they were underestimating I don't think people are underestimating. The word's out, man. They're not underestimating the Jazz anymore. Ty Lue's a smart guy and a smart coach. Like, these guys, they know they have to be prepared and they're still out efforting people and finding ways to win, and it's just impressive as hell. Like, I don't know, it's still really good watching them play basketball.
Well, we certainly agree with that, right? Like, the effort is always high. I adore watching Colin Sexton come into the game because, look, I'm a casual fan like everybody else. I'm a total sucker for when a guy just, like, especially in, like, shitty college basketball, when the guys, like, slap the floor, right? Like, I think it's like, oh, they're really into the game, then they immediately get sucked up by a screen and give up a wide open 3. I get it. But, like, Colin Sexton, I'm guilty of just enjoying his energy come in, because then he actually effectuates on that. And that's effectuated by Colin Sexton being the tallest jumper for a rebound that is contested by nobody, right? Like, and then he ends up drawing fouls. He ends up figuring out, okay, if I'm able to cut in this angle, Sexton is figuring out that cutting is a thing that'll get him easy baskets. It's really infectious. It's fun to watch. Lowry's super fundamental, playing his position. Really enjoy watching that. And then it really opens up the sore spots on the team when you see guys like Rudy Gay playing like total ass basketball. It's really annoying when he does things that you're just like, all right, you stop the ball. What are you going to do with it? Are you going to move it to the next guy and move the flow of the offense? Are you going to bully a guy with your being 6'9", you've got a small guy on you? No, Rudy Gay still plays passive and shitty and old, and it's really annoying to watch on a team that's young and fast. And so what you're looking for out of Rudy Gay is just being a good three-point shooter, and he's not shooting the threes that are afforded to him, and he's kind of slowing down the offense that way. It's a total stunning thing to watch a guy like Rudy Gay when you have everyone else playing super well around him. Talen Horton-Tucker was pretty bad today, but I do want to give credit to something that just blew my mind when he completely shook Marcus Morris out of his shoes. You got to watch the clips tomorrow morning, guys, when you get the chance, or tonight if you're nocturnal. I can't even describe what the dribble move was. You want to call it a crossover, but he had like a little shoulder shimmy in there too that really just sent Marcus Morris flying in the other direction. And I'm pretty sure it's a basketball rule that if you send a guy flying 4, 5, 6 feet in the other direction, you have to shoot the jumper. You just have to. And so THT gets a complete wide Pangea Earth space to shoot, and he drills the three. I was actually pretty happy for him, but I would rather not have to watch that ever again. His defense was pretty poor. He had a couple of good rebounds, actually. Both he's got 2 rebounds. Both of his rebounds were contested against Ivica Zubac, which was that's tough to do. Zubac is a great offensive rebounder. Zubac had 3 today in 35 minutes. Zubac playing 35 minutes is also a big testament to maybe how they were trying to match up against the Jazz, right? Do you play Zubac over Amir Coffey, who's more of a swing man, right, to match up some of the players the Jazz have? And instead, as far as points in the paint, right, like I think Ty Lue said, we need to try to beat the guys like Kelly Olynyk down low with Zubac, who I think in national TV games and playoff games might not feel like the best player on the floor, and in fact a quite shitty player, but I think Utah Jazz fans would appreciate the idea of a player like Ivica Zubac, who is way better than his national television performances would indicate, right? Like a center who does a ton of stuff reliably for your offense and defense that actually matter today. And I think Zubac was a great force in the paint today, except for that one time where Jordan Clarkson blocked him from the weak side, because that's a new Jordan Clarkson thing that we get to look forward to, is a block a game from Jordan Clarkson. Walker Kessler had a couple good moments today, a couple good blocks. He blocked Zubac once on a late possession play, and he was fine, but he was also caught out of position a couple times. Kessler's a rookie center, not quite as good as the players we saw the first week of the season. Looking forward to more things from him. Nickeil Alexander-Walker got the minutes that were missing from Jared Vanderbilt today, and nothing to really write home about. I know we really want to see Nickeil Alexander-Walker play, but I really do think that with how Ochai Agbaji has been playing the past couple weeks, that Gay's minutes, Alexander Walker's minutes, like when a guy goes down, Agbaji's got to be the guy who's just in there to learn the game, play defense, and shoot threes. He's not bad enough to make mistakes. He's made a couple pretty bad mistakes over the past couple weeks when he's gotten those minutes. But I think he pretty much needs to be on the floor if any of the starting 5 or any of the key bench players are missing minutes. And Agbaji didn't touch the floor today. So we'll see. We're still kind of learning Will Hardy's doghouse as well, right? Sexton plays 27 minutes off the bench today. Without Vanderbilt, that Malik Beasley started, so Sexton still came off the bench with Conley and Clarkson starting, noting that Sexton did close the game, which is sometimes more important. But Sexton has been in and out of Will Hardy's doghouse all year. And it's for defensive things, it's for offensive things. But it's pretty clear that everyone really appreciates that Colin Sexton's give a shit level. So when it comes to Nickeil Alexander-Walker and Ochai Agbaji, it's not really clear what their doghouse level is, right? Like what mistakes are they making that are just like big no-nos in Will Hardy's world. Like every coach has like mistakes that they'll tolerate, mistakes that are just you're hitting the bench immediately if you make these kind of mistakes. We got a classic Kelly Olynyk game today, guys. 5 fouls in 29 minutes, trying to draw charges when he has just absolutely no fucking business drawing charges. Like, this is the Kelly Olynyk experience. If you're not used to watching Kelly Olynyk and you're not quite used to just the guy from Gonzaga with long hair and the world's shittiest beard playing defense, this is Kelly Olynyk, right? He will never protect the rim. I think his rim protection numbers and his block numbers are just preposterously low for a center. But the dude learned how to draw fouls at some point in the day, and that's like his only defensive skill. I'm being a little bit exaggerative because Olynyk has a great feel for disrupting post passes. He knows how to really mess up a screen. He knows how to do all the little things that matter. And he actually is a true, like, I think a 7 feet tall guy if he's not 6'10 or 6'11. He's listed at 6'11", 240. So the next time you hear Holly Rowe say that we have 3 7-footers on the floor, remind her that it's a 6'10" Jared Vanderbilt, 6'11" Lauri Markkanen, and a 6'11" Kelly Olynyk. But he's trying to charge hard as where he shouldn't be. But all of a sudden, he's got these sublime passes in the post. He gets the ball off the short roller. He gets the ball off a pick and pop. And he knows immediately where the ball should go if he doesn't have a shot available. He's 1 of 2 from 3. He's 4 of 4 from the free throw line. He's plus 10 in 29 minutes. 9 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists. That's Kelly Olynyk. And I was as stunned as anybody to see him get that game winner against the Pelicans a couple weeks ago. But as I explained in the postcast then, he gets that game winner because of his basketball feel and how to just play the game. This goes back to what I said at the top of the program, if I can call this a fucking program, is the feel of this team to do just general basketball. How are we gonna beat this defense? How do we defend offenses? Just innate basketball player good vibes is super high with this team. So Olynyk against the Pelicans, you give him the ball off the inbounds, he's looking one way, he's looking another way. He knows the first, second, third reads of the play, right? And it's kind of like a quarterback in football who your fourth read can be the dump off swing pass to the running back for 2 yards, or you can say, fuck it, I'm scrambling for 8 yards in the first down. And Olynyk, that was his plays. He said, all right, they switched a bunch of stuff on the back end. I got CJ McCollum on me. You know what? Fuck it. I can dribble. I'm 7 feet tall. I'm sorry, 6 foot 11 inches. And he goes and gets, it's an awkward layup, but it's a wide open layup for him. And that's him playing offense every day for the Jazz. It is a good play here, a good play there, a super annoying foul every quarter, and he's plus 10. And he sucked for Houston. He sucked for Detroit. He was very good for Boston and very good for Miami. He's the classic 6th best player in a championship on a championship team, right? Good player. Glad we have him. There's going to be a team come the deadline that says Kelly Olynyk is a guy we need in the second and third quarters of a game in the NBA Finals to do something, right? Like our backup, like if you look at Milwaukee with Serge Ibaka, right? Great defensive player in his heyday, solid passer, could shoot once upon a time for his position. If you replace Ibaka with Kelly Olynyk, maybe you're losing some of that extreme defense. But if you pair Olynyk with Giannis Antetokounmpo and some minutes in the second quarter or the fourth quarter, something like that, maybe Olynyk is making a play that can swing a game for you, or hitting a couple threes. And Olynyk has been super clutch, not afraid of the big moment, played in some big games at Gonzaga. I don't enjoy watching Kelly Olynyk play. I enjoy having real hoopers on the team. And as weird as Olynyk looks, I think he's what you would call a real hooper. On the sort of aspect, just not in the way you is aesthetically pleasing a lot. Look, I hate it. I hate charges in general. I'm not team captain of ban the charge, but I'm pretty high up there. I think charges are bad I think they're okay in college, but I think in the NBA you just lead to injuries, and you're gonna get a guy hurt by having guys slide under trying to draw charges. And Marcus Smart and Kelly Olynyk and all these guys that love doing that, it really skeeves me out, and I think we're gonna hurt a star player with a broken wrist on trying to draw a charge when they just shouldn't be. Luckily, Kelly Olynyk tries to draw a charge very early in a driving ball handler's possession where he gets called for a foul most of the time. I mentioned this on the last postcast, but if anyone's wondering, oh wow, does Kelly Olynyk just really foul all the time? And the answer is no. This is by far his... Well, I should say yes and no. This is by far his worst foul rate of his entire career. By magnitudes, he's in the 5th percentile or 8th percentile for foul percentage, and I don't care to look that up specifically right now, but it's below 10. It's below the 10th percentile, and he's typically been around 35th to 40th percentile, which for a center is fine. That's normal, because centers are usually ones contesting shots and committing fouls and everything. but you gotta love that he's providing the passes that make sense, and he's providing the rebounds when they matter, and he's providing the just the je ne sais quoi, if I can continue to use a French phrase without a French player on the team, that matters to the winning basketball. Love Malik Beasley starting in Jared Vanderbilt's spot today. We missed Jared Vanderbilt today, I think. We missed that chaotic energy that's really, really fun. The rebounding, the defense on Paul George, I think would have really helped. I definitely think Jared Vanderbilt would have fouled out of this game if he was matched up against Marcus Morris and Paul George today. But I do think those fouls would have been more useful than Olynyk's fouls and some of the other things that happened. Paul George, like Andrew mentioned, it was it was a struggle first quarter with how Paul George was playing, and the team got better as the game went on. But I do think Vanderbilt would have helped even more with that, right? And especially if Paul George is on the bench, which was a rare occurrence today. It was only 10 minutes that Paul George was on the bench. But if you have Jared Vanderbilt marked up against Norman Powell, if you have we saw a bunch of John Wall fast breaks today where John Wall got the ball, and there was just Utah tried to keep up with John Wall fast breaks, and they just absolutely could not. John Wall was overall pretty miserable today, especially defensively. John Wall was a total useless player defensively, but you get John Wall doing his John Wall thing without Paul George on the floor. What if Jared Vanderbilt's out there, making life a little harder for John Wall? Maybe Vanderbilt's fouling out in the third quarter. I don't know. But we did miss him today, and Malik Beasley continues to be that guy that I don't think we're seeing the best version of him out there. I love having him shoot. I've watched him in Denver here, which is where I live. Sorry if anyone new is on the broadcast and is wondering, where am I? I'm sorry that I live in Denver, but that's where I am. And I've seen a lot of Malik Beasley. That guy can shoot, and he can shoot in a lot of different ways. So I liked having him get the start and do some good things with it. And I think his turnovers were bad. He had, I think, 2 of his 3 turnovers were just dribbling the ball off his foot, off of a rebound. So not too worried about that. And I think the last guy we'll talk about today is just the captain of the whole squad is Mike Conley. Team high plus 11. I've bemoaned his floater range performance this year, but otherwise he's 17 points today, 2 of 6 from 3, which means that he's 5 of 7 from 2-point land. He is shaking guys off the dribble. He looks agile this year. He is really got a good point guard game in his bag. He had, I think, 11 assists on Friday night, 4 assists today, but 7 rebounds today. When's the last time Mike Conley had 7 rebounds? That's something to look up tomorrow. 1 turnover on a game where Utah overall had 20, right? And he played 33 minutes. Friends, this is not a 35-year-old who is just trying to play out the string, get traded to a good team, and go on. Mike Conley is here to be a point guard of a professional basketball team, and he's absolutely excelling at it this year. Jordan Clarkson's my favorite player on this team. Lauri Markkanen's been my favorite player to just kind of see where it goes. And we get a lot of fun players that like watching, young talent, whatever. Mike Conley's, I've loved him before, but his impact on this young squad is so fun and enjoyable. And it's like a good like Campbell's soup, like every game. And he has the same but different effect when he checks in the game after he's rested for a bit. And I think this will ring true for a lot of folks. You have a series of possessions when in prior years would be led by Donovan Mitchell and a bunch of bench players, right? No Rudy Gobert on the floor. It'd just be Donovan Mitchell and insert bench guys here. And it would just kind of devolve into nothingness. And then Mike Conley would come onto the floor and immediately settle things down with a normal-ass basic possession. three-pointer, layup at the rim, maybe a guy's getting fouled. The calmness that he provides when he comes in off the bench, especially as a starter too, but you really notice it when he comes off the bench after he's rested for a little bit and said, "Don't worry, guys, it's time to play professional basketball." And he does it. And it's that effectuating the offense. The first few possessions he came in after a rest in the third quarter, he stood in the corner for a little bit while Jordan Clarkson did his thing. But because he has evolved his game into being this deadly three-point shooter, 2 of 6 today from deep, teams have to respect where is Mike Conley going to go, not just standing in the corner shooting threes, but all of a sudden you're setting a screen for him and he's getting the ball in the wing at the elbow where he's going to shoot. That's his favorite spot from three. So the guy guarding Mike Conley was sometimes Paul George or Terrence Mann, and making sure that he didn't touch the basketball. And instead, he just played professional-ass basketball that was really enjoyable to watch. His floater's been a really weird thing this year. I bemoaned it last cast. And we can look it up now to see exactly how good or bad it's been. But he's missed a lot of bunnies around floater range, and like that's got to be a shot. That's just got to be a shot. So hopefully that improves. That's the roster rundown of everybody. Got a lot of folks here in the chat. We have one of our favorite folks, Jazzketball. What's your thoughts today, friend? Jazzketball, if you want to chime in and say anything, I got you on the line, brother.
No, we were just doing another live space. We do them before and after every game, too. I've seen you do them a couple times. But just wondering if you can join us tomorrow before the Laker game. We usually do them 30 minutes before tip-off.
Well, I can't do them before because I have job and kids. But I like to do them late when I'm able to have 10, 11, 12, 13% beers on a Sunday night. So I appreciate...
That's fair enough.
I appreciate the invite, and next time that I am unable to do one, I couldn't do one on a Friday night because both my kiddos were sick. So because I have 2 kids, we're on man-to-man defense right now. And if both kids are sick, then my wife and I have to commit to doing one. So if there's a night that I'm on kid duty or something like that, then I'm gonna chime into your space if you got one open. So I'll definitely give you a follow there.
Yeah, we were just doing another space and had a bunch of trolls. They're back in here again. One Saucy Sexton and the other one just left, but they basically get on and say the N-word over and over. So we had to cut ours short, so I thought I'd get in on this one.
Well, I appreciate you joining and giving the heads up. I have a pretty quick trigger finger with that stuff, and also an exceedingly low tolerance for bullshit. So I appreciate the heads up.
Yeah, we're kind of new, so I was trying to kick them, and then I had to mute everyone. I was like, I got to moderate this better, so
yeah.
I'm just going to end it. But I'm glad you got one going.
Yeah, I do. We're doing this, and we have the YouTube channel going on live now. So I have to. My hand is on the mouse all the time, just clicking off the bots that appear in the YouTube all the time. But we have a. Michael Amphetamines, is that a guy we should let in or no, Jazzketball?
Yeah, Michael and Josh, no, they're the one with Larry Markkinen and then the Vanderbilt jersey, they're both trolls. Well,
then we don't have to let that one in. But if anyone else wants to have some fun thoughts about what's going on with the Jazz or the NBA in general, it's the end of your fantasy basketball week. If anyone really screwed you over in fantasy or had a great week in fantasy, love to talk about fantasy basketball as well. If not, it's 11:30 Mountain for all y'all. And so if pending any late requests to join the spaces, which I'm happy to do, and this isn't kicking you out. I'm going to take another sip of this beer here to end out the night. And Jazz are 8-3, friends. 4-3 on the road. Go home tomorrow against the Lakers. That's got to be a guaranteed win, right, friends?
Yeah, I don't know if you talked about this earlier, but Lauri Markkanen got switched on to Paul George in the second half, and it felt like he shut him down. Not shut him down, but completely affected him the rest of the game. There were a few times Paul George was able to drive past Lowry, but then Olynyk or Kessler was there and fouled him. So I felt like it made it hard. But did you guys already talk about that?
Yeah, and it started in the late second quarter as well. I think actually I put a little bit of the blame on Paul George for settling for jump shots, because Paul George just had remarkable success driving to the rim against any defender, including Markkanen. So, and he was settling for some threes, which, you can't even say that was really that much of a problem, because he's a great 3-point shooter, and I think if he hits one or two more threes, you're in a good space. As the Clippers, but Markkanen, he had some good movement today. I appreciated his activity. I appreciated what he can do. I need to see a little bit more for me to be like, yeah, Markkanen's our wing defender of the future. But I do think that experience that he had in Cleveland last year, being forced to play the three, was really helpful for him going forward. For this year.
I think if Vanderbilt's here, he's obviously the guy on him. I thought it was kind of genius. Larry didn't guard him almost the whole first half, and we were trying different guys. It makes me think back to Joe Ingles guarding him, and just like if length bothers him a bit, because he did have 3-point shots, but they just kept coming up short, almost like he felt Lowry could have gotten out there to block the shot.
Yeah, it's very possible. I think Lowry was totally fine, and he got switched onto him a couple times. It really didn't matter. It was fun to watch. I definitely agree that like going away from having a Jordan Clarkson guard him or something like that was effective. And I think we were just worried about Paul George on Lauri Markkanen. You're going to end up with foul draw. You're going to with fouls getting drawn. You're going to end up with Paul George just kind of lighting him up, unexpectedly. And I thought he did a pretty fine job. So I'm with you. I'm going to let one more person speak. We got Aaron. Based on the accent of your name, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that correctly. I will. This will be the last one of the night, friend. And we'll see what you got going on, Mr. Aaron.
Yes, you got it. You got it. Aaron or that one works fine. I'm a Jazz fan. Long life. I can't speak anymore. I get nervous on these things. Thanks for letting me in. I just wanted to get in a quick word because I love this team. They have heart. They have hustle. There's one lineup that I still don't quite understand. I don't know if it was talked about earlier, but when THT and Na are both in there in the lineup, I feel like the Jazz are just trying to buy minutes and survive any way they can. And the guys will try hard, but, I mean, like, THT is just pulling up threes, and that's definitely not his shot. I just feel like sometimes it just ruins momentum. Luckily, we've been able to survive it and manage it well. But I still feel like Will Hardy's, like, experimenting and, like, trying to see what he can do. I don't know if you guys have, like, any thoughts on this. Like, is this, like, going to be, like, a rotation, or is this just because of, Vanderbilt's injury? Because he was out today. So that's all I have to say. But, go Jazz.
Yeah, no, I also get extremely nervous when I start jumping in on random people's fucking spaces, and I'm like, hey, talk to me about Taylor Horton Tucker. No, actually, it's one of my bigger notes, and he still went to it in the fourth quarter. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Clarkson, Taylor Horton Tucker, and then what makes it worse is Rudy Gay and Kelly Olynyk. So what the fuck is that, right? Like it was a real struggle lineup that I had. I was uncomfortable watching, going against John Wall, Terrence Mann, Norm Powell, Nick Batum, and Ivica Zubac, and I'm giving a solid edge there to the Clippers to really dominate those minutes. And you end up with that the ball movement just isn't happening with Clarkson, Walker, Horton Tucker, and Rudy Gay. Like, there's not a single one of those guys, except for Kelly Olynyk at center, is actually moving the basketball there, right? In a natural, efficient way. Jordan Clarkson's gotten really good at that this year, but I think if you put Jordan Clarkson with those four assholes, you're ending up with a much shittier situation where Jordan Clarkson ends up having to be the guy. And I think Jordan Clarkson works a lot better in his new skill rising role if you put him with a lot of other good players that he knows that they're always going to be in the right spot. And instead, you get a couple of Jordan Clarkson's turnovers today being where he's trying to throw to the ball to the spot where a guy's just not there. And so you end up with these weird lineups. And yeah, Alexander Walker belongs as a defensive-minded two-guard because that was his role coming out of college, out of Virginia Tech, is to be a defensive-minded two-guard that was unfairly put at point guard in New Orleans for a bunch of shitty teams, and he's still trying to work out his distributor role. And then, yeah, Taylor Horton Tucker today. He's, aside from his amazing step-back three today, right, he's 0 of 3 from 3. And a lot of it is, like, yeah, getting the ball and kind of being like, all right, I'll jack up a shot. I think it was more that you end up with that lineup in the start of the fourth quarter. I think that lineup played a couple minutes in the second quarter, and it's not all not having Vanderbilt, right? But it was also not wanting to have Walker Kessler out there because Kessler was, I think I saw a lot of compliments to Walker Kessler tonight, and I think he actually struggled a little bit more than people want to admit. Didn't want to have him out there against Ivica Zubac and John Wall just barreling down and drawing fouls on him. And so you end up with kind of Olynyk and Clarkson running the show, and then just with no three-point shooting available. And in that lineup, I don't mind Alexander Walker and Taylor Horton Tucker playing together, but instead of Rudy Gay, that's got to be Agbaji, right? That's got to be a better defender. That's got to be a better shooter. And if you insist on having Rudy Gay out there, then you can't have both NAW and THT. And I'm like, Malik Beasley will always play, right? And so if you told me there was a lineup instead, and this is actually a lineup that played earlier in the season for the first week, of Clarkson, Beasley, THT, and Gay, and I think Walker Kessler at center the first week of the season, that's a lineup I can fuck with a little bit. So I'm totally with you that it's not just NAW and THT together, it's that you're also having Clarkson and Gay, and then is it Markkanen out there? Nope, it's Kelly Olynyk. So where's the scoring come from? Where's the distributing come from? I was also frustrated from that, so I appreciate your very nuanced lineup comment, Mr. Aron.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, hey, thanks for taking my question. Yeah, because I was watching the game, I was ripping my hair out because I was like, what are we doing? Like we had, I don't know. I'm glad we pulled it out. Beasley hit that clutch three with 2 minutes left, and I think that really kind of sealed the game. So in Beasley, I trust.
Yeah, I think his 3-point shooting on the year is poor, and I insist that I'm glad that Malik Beasley's hitting some of these clutch threes over the past couple weeks because it is making Jazz fans have the appropriate level of respect for him because I think he's a much better shooter than his percentages have shown, and his shimmy. Jazz fans were huge suckers for players who play to the crowd because we're a good crowd, and I think he'll be a lot better than we're seeing. I think we're going to see some Malik Beasley 15-point halves, right? Like he's a good player. So that clutch three was great, and I think he could have deserved some minutes over. Start of the fourth quarter. Yeah, I know he started the game and he's probably playing a lot of minutes and whatever. And I have to look at exactly his distribution minutes in the third quarter to see if I would have done it differently. But yeah, that lineup scared the shit out of me, and I'm glad we still pulled out a win. And speaking of which, that's a Jazz 8-point win, friends. I really appreciate everyone joining. This was a lot of fun. I committed to donating $3 for everyone who joined today to one of the Utah food banks for the month. from my buddy Colin. So I think I have a couple $100 that I gotta donate. So I'm up for it, and especially this time of year, it's getting colder. So really appreciate everyone joining. Got some calls in. Thank you to Jazzkaball for warning me about some trolls, because I definitely would have gotten succumbed to that, even if I had a quick trigger finger. Wouldn't have appreciated that at all, especially because we have a recorded podcast going on. So appreciate everyone joining on. The Jazz are 8-3. We got the Lakers tomorrow, and we're gonna kick their ass again. So I'll see you all tomorrow night for Jazz Lakers, and y'all have a good night.